Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Matt.
Thanks,
the
David.
old guy's getting more demented by the moment.
I hope so. It's good to be back with you, David and Rhonda.
Yeah, well, welcome, Matt. We have another Ask David episode with the marvelous and magnificent Matt May is joining us. And hi, David.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello.
And welcome, listeners. This is episode, did I already say this? This is episode 254.
With Dr. Matt May.
With Dr. Matt May.
And
we may have another doctor. Are we having that other guest doctor that you had the last time Matt May was on?
Oh, we'll have to see if he drops in. Yes, but there would have to be something profound to be said. Rutherford, and I don't think we've gotten too much feedback on him yet. But he's quite the character, and he has a lot of really deep insights.
Yeah. So I wanted to read this great endorsement that we got about you, Matt, one of the last times that you were on the podcast. It was regarding episode 254, which we published on June 7th.
Now, wait just a minute. You said this is 254 that we're doing today.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little dyslexic, so I changed the numbers. It was 245, called Tips for Joy, Should Statements, and More. And that episode featured Matthew May. Okay, thanks.
Who's very similar to the Matt May who was with us today.
Okay, so this is from Eduardo, and Eduardo said, "Hi, guys. I just wanted to say that I hadn't heard Matt until now. I had heard a lot of good things about Matt from David and Rhonda, but now I see what they meant. Thank you, Matt, for your passion in what you do, Eduardo."
Oh, thanks to Eduardo. That's really nice to hear. And I'm feeling a little embarrassed with all the attention, but also enjoying it. So
yeah, and well deserved too, Matt. I say it every show. You're one of the greatest therapists on planet Earth, and one of the kindest, warmest people as well, and so we're just honored to have you. And again today, it's just a joy for Rhonda and for me, and for that other guy,
Rutherford. Yeah,
Rutherford. Yes, said that he thinks you're okay too.
that's good to know. It's hard to impress Rutherford.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I thought I would just read one more.
Very hard, but go ahead. No problem.
Are you ready for me to read a short one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want all the attention to go to Matt, so I'm going to read. This is regarding episode 232, which is another Ask David on ego strength, panic attack, habits, addictions, high blood pressure. And this is sent from Mike.
Oh.
And Mike wrote, "I sometimes say to myself that I won't learn anything new in these podcasts, but then Dr. Burns proves me wrong every time."
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you for that kind comment.
Ah. Okay, well, let's see how we can do today.
Cool.
This is from Karine.
Also, I notice that you don't talk into the mic sometimes, so it causes echo.
You're talking to me, or?
Yeah, that's great when you're talking into the mic. It's really cool.
I'm looking at my other computer for the endorsements, but now I'll look directly at you guys. So this is from Karine, and she wrote, "Hello, Dr. Burns."
Just can you move your mic to your right?
To my right?
Yeah, like that, because you're often looking off to your right, and if it's over there, then you'll be talking right into it.
Okay. Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah, that was a great thought. And I did it. And yes. So let me just jump into Karine.
Okay.
And she wrote, "Hello, Dr. Burns. I am trying to help my daughter who is starting to have anorexia with your book. I'm trying to help my daughter with your book. As the consultations are not working and we're on a waiting list for a specialist, which can take months or even years here in Quebec. I have read both of your last books and I'm getting good at using them for social anxiety. However, I can't see exactly how to apply it for an eating disorder. I've asked my daughter to list the benefits she gained from not eating, and I'm trying to help her see the cognitive distortions in her thoughts, but it's much harder. Her thoughts, for example, I lose weight quickly, which will do. I may help my daughter see the cognitive distortion in which will do, but not in the thought, I will lose weight. Could you help me see the pattern I should follow, please? As I really think your technique can help my daughter faster and better than the traditional psychologist conversations. Regards, Karine."
I don't know if you want to dive in first, Matt.
I have a couple of things to say there. One is that I'm always very concerned when I'm hearing about a diagnosis of anorexia nervosa. It is a dangerous illness. I think it's one of the one that's more associated with mortality than other psychiatric diagnoses. So yeah, this is something to be very concerned about. And I think the common pattern is when people have anorexia nervosa that they do not have an agenda to treat it. Their agenda is to lose more weight, which of course can be very dangerous. And I would also like to say I don't consider myself to be a specialist in treating anorexia nervosa. It could be a good question to have Jacob Towery on the show again to talk about. I know he's looked into, and as a child psychiatrist, he is frequently treating people with anorexia and recommends getting the family involved in supporting eating habits and being with the child as they're eating, and that can be effective. But this is a tough one, and I feel sad that there's such a long wait time to see a specialist in Quebec for this young woman.
Those are some wise words. My take on it, of course, I certainly underscore and support everything you just said. My take on it is radically different. That you have the typical thing here of a parent trying to treat a child with pointing out cognitive distortions and what the child is saying and thinking. And from the very time I wrote Feeling Good, I said, don't ever try to use these techniques on someone else. And I wrote that, 50 years ago, and people still don't seem to get it. The goal of working with cognitive distortions is to help yourself. And if you try to point out another person's cognitive distortions, there's a 100% guarantee you'll just piss them off. And I've never recommended that, and you can do that if you want, but it's doomed to failure. And I don't know how to say it any more clearly. We've had some great podcasts on this exact thing, like the podcast on how to help and how not to help, and what parents or anyone needs to learn to do is to listen when someone is upset and find truth in what they're saying and acknowledge their feelings and provide warmth and support. You've got to have a relationship first. Also, I was hoping you would read that beautiful email we got about the 5 secrets at home. I had sent that to you. I don't know if you have that there.
I do have that.
Yeah, read that one too, because that's such a beautiful one. And the idea is that a mother needs to form a relationship with a daughter by using the 5 secrets, not by trying to become the daughter's therapist. That other position of your mic that you had just now was just fantastic, by the way, but you moved it back. You moved it over to your right. See, we can't even hear you now.
I have to look at my other computer in order to read the endorsement.
Yeah.
So I moved the mic to mommy.
Yeah, like over there. That's great.
Okay. So this was about the 5 Secrets at Home, and when we featured Mary and Elizabeth Stockton, and Carolyn wrote to us and she said, and again, this was podcast number 229, and Carolyn wrote, a really wonderful podcast, so very helpful and eye-opening. We have 3 girls around 20 years of age, and they battle with similar thoughts like Elizabeth did. For example, I should be skinnier, my nose is too big, my eyebrows don't have the right shape, and so on. Every time our daughters start to criticize themselves, I reassure them by saying just how beautiful and perfect they are. But I always get a negative reaction like, you don't understand this. You don't have a clue about how it is to try and stand up or to fit in with all these social media models, and so on. And when I tell them they don't need to compete with the photoshopped models because they're so perfect, they get annoyed with me and they shoot me down with, you don't know what you're talking about. You're too old to understand this. I always thought that my girls reacted overly sensitive, but now I can see that I was insensitive and I didn't really listen to them. I will have to dive into the 5 secrets of communications and learn this. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing this and helping me see where I've gone wrong all the time with my daughters. And thank you, Mary, Rhonda, and David, for the great podcast. Many greetings, Carolyn.
Yeah, and what a beautiful, and that woman got it from that podcast. And maybe the woman who wrote in here, Karine, could listen to that podcast as well as podcast How to Help and How Not to Help and get it too. And I can't tell you what to do. I can't treat you. But to my way of thinking, the first thing in any relationship is to form a loving relationship. And you can do that through listening, through finding truth in what the person is saying. You can read my book, Feeling Good Together. There's written exercises that you can learn how to do this. But trying to, convince someone with anorexia that what they're doing is irrational is never going to be effective. There's not a chance in hell that's going to work. But if you respond in a loving way and acknowledge their pain and let them share their feelings, at least you have that as a starting point. And then, as you pointed out, Matt, the coercive therapy for anorexia nervosa developed at the Maudsley is a family therapy intervention. It has a 50% success rate. And essentially the mother and father sit down as a team, and they put up tremendous resistance to doing this. But you sit down next to the child and you force the child to eat. And you don't get up until the child has eaten, and you don't engage in negotiations of how much the child's going to eat. You tell the child, and if you have to sit there 11 hours, you sit there 11 hours with the therapist. And then this seems kind of cruel and coercive, but this is the one time where coercion saves people's lives. But you need an expert to maneuver these kind of complex and life-saving family therapy interventions. But right now, we're working on your own. You could work on how to form a loving relationship with your daughter, so at least you'd get the trust. I don't know if we could role play that to demonstrate it, because you can talk about these things, but they will never help anyone. The only way to do it is by practice or by watching and seeing how it's done. Should we try to demo that? Does someone want to be a daughter with anorexia, and someone could be a mother?
Okay, I'll be the daughter.
Okay. And Matt, would you want to be the mother?
Okay, I'll give it a go.
Okay.
No, I'm not hungry, and I don't want to have dinner. I can't fit into this. I can't fit into the clothes I want to wear, and I'm just really too skinny. I'm really too fat. I don't like the way I look, and I need to lose weight. All my friends are a lot thinner than me, and they're a lot more beautiful than I am. And I know I don't want dinner, and I don't want a snack. I'll just have an apple.
Wow. Rhonda, I'm feeling a lot of sadness for what you're going through. And I noticed that I've probably been kind of pushing or forcing food on you, and maybe you even feel a little bit angry with me for doing that and not understanding some of your pain and what you're going through. You said that you don't feel attractive, that you feel overweight, that you're not as thin as some of your friends. It sounds like your self-esteem, you're not feeling good about yourself. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. What is that like for you?
Good. Now, what grade do you? What now? Once you do that, then everyone gives a grade. What grade do you give yourself?
Maybe a B. I don't think I did much stroking there.
Good point. What grade did you give, Rhonda?
I would give Matt a B plus A minus, because I didn't feel much stroking, and I'm not sure if there was a disarming or finding truth in what I said.
Disarming and stroking. Yeah, it was definitely B plus A minus, and way beyond what this woman is doing. But the techniques we want to use are feeling empathy, acknowledging the other person's feelings, and there might be even more feelings that the daughter feels lonely, feels like you're not good enough. Maybe you're feeling sad or anxious or ashamed. That's a good instrument to have in your orchestra, feeling empathy. And you did fantastic on thought empathy, repeating her words. And the disarming technique is finding truth in what the other person said. And that could have been stronger. Like you're right, sweetheart. There is so much pressure and emphasis on beauty and having this ideal figure and an ideal face, and I can imagine too how painful it is to look at yourself and to say, "Wow, I'm not like that," and to look at your friends and say, "Oh boy, they're a lot more like that," and that pain of comparing yourself to others can be just unbearable and just feel so hurt and so lonely, that, and then we've got the I feel statements, which you did beautifully. I'm feeling a lot of sadness, and then stroking is, I just love you so much, and that's why it gives me so much pain. And then the inquiry would be the last one. To tell me more about what that's like for you. I really want to hear what you have to say. And when you use this type of approach, you're not putting up any argument. You're not inviting any opposition or arguing, but it's just a chance to connect, to form a more loving relationship. And until you get some expert input, that would be goal number one. And my heart goes out to you, but I'm frustrated on your behalf because what you're trying, is not, to my way of thinking, isn't going to be effective. I'm working on an app right now, and we're working on the depression part of it at the moment, and I'm hoping to get some of this interpersonal stuff developed as well, so we can have a lot of role plays and demonstrations and ways for people to really learn these things, because the whole world needs to learn this, and everyone in the world just arguing and trying to convince people of something, your own point of view. And there's going to be an article in the New England Journal of Medicine next week, and they found historical records dating back to the earliest Egyptian times, and they have a record now of every time a human being has tried to convince someone of something, and there's actually 1.4 trillion efforts so far, and never once has it been successful. And so maybe it's time to try something else.
Yeah. One aspect of this that I wonder about is that when you see your daughter doing something that's self-destructive and dangerous for her life, that I think it's hard not to feel really scared and
right,
and potentially
terrified.
and potentially even to feel angry at her for doing something that's harmful to herself.
Yeah.
And that those feelings, I think you pointed out that all feelings get expressed.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I wonder if part of her, she said she's trying to help. I wonder if she were to transition that into communicating some more about what's going on for her and her feelings of fear and worry for her daughter, and even anger at the behavior that's harming her daughter.
I love that, Matt. We completely missed the boat on that other dimension of the I feel statements. Another powerful tool we don't use. Model how that might work.
I think this might be after more disarming and stroking and seeing where her daughter's coming from, but also to share, and I think with real tears, that this is really scary, and that based on what I know about this is an illness that could kill you, and I just love you so much. It's terrifying for me to hear you, or to see that you're not eating, to see you getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And I even feel, this is hard, but I actually feel angry with you when I see you not eating, not taking care of your body. It's hard for me. It's awkward because I care about you, but you're doing something to you that if someone else were doing it, if someone else were preventing you from eating, not allowing you to eat, I would, push them down a flight of steps. And so I'm having this awkward feeling of anger and fear that I just wanted to express. And I wonder what it's like for you to hear that.
I love. I mean, I give that an A++, and that's again beautiful. And when we model these things, they seem so easy, but they take practice and study, and that's why I've got. I mean, there's a lot of free podcasts on the 5 secrets of effective communication. You just go to my website, feelinggood.com, and there's a search function. You type in 5 secrets, and you'll find tons of resources. But you have to want to change, and you may not want to. Most people don't want to. Most people want to just go ahead and keep giving my daughter advice and kind of feeling secretly angry with her. And it might sound like I'm a cynic to say that. And I say that because I am a cynic. And I think this is the road less traveled by. Rhonda will put this in better words.
Well, Matt, that was incredibly beautiful. I agree with David. That was an A++. I think it's really hard for parents to talk about their feelings with their kids because they're so used to being the one in charge and the one, kind of in power in a parent-child relationship. And now they have to give up that power and the control in the relationship and show their own vulnerability and treat their child differently than they have been doing up until this point. And that's really hard.
And it also means looking at yourself rather than, trying to get your child fixed.
Right.
And but anyway, hopefully this gives people some ideas about a radically different direction to go with. And this is for all of you, not just for Karine, but for all of you who have children or who have friends. Even today, I ran into a professional interaction where someone wasn't really listening, was trying to impose, his agenda, his ideas on another person who didn't take kindly to it. And so in all relationships, whether they're work, whether they're teaching, whether it's a therapeutic relationship, family relationship, this is where the world is lacking and where the world needs a gigantic tune-up and where the world probably isn't going to get a tune-up, doesn't want a tune-up. And according to my wife, who is the brains in our family, this will lead to the extinction of the human race because humans aren't going to get it, going to continue trying to control each other, fighting with each other, and there isn't going to be a way out.
Oh, that's a sad message.
Especially since she's so damn smart. If she wasn't smart, I wouldn't worry so much.
One thing that I really liked in your book, Feeling Good Together, was how you identified how tempting it is to blame.
Yeah.
how we have these ideas that lure us into, even if we know the 5 secrets, even if we're convinced that that's the right way to approach our relationships, that we'll still have these temptations and reasons to continue to blame or try to force the other person to change. And yes, often, well, I don't know if this is the the podcast to go into that, but I think if someone is stuck in that pattern of trying to persuade others and change them, if they write down how that's advantageous to them and what about that is appealing to them, what's tempting to them to do that, that can be helpful to see that resistance and to at least bring it to the surface and look at it.
In fact, the next question that we have is on the same topic, and I tried to print out the example earlier. Let me print out it again. I think the computer didn't take it. Didn't give the right instruction. I want to print out this woman's relationship journal, and just give me a second to do that. Maybe you can read.
While you're doing that, why don't I read
question.
that, because that's a perfect segue into our next question. Shirley sent David an email. Hello, David and others. I have been convinced how important using the 5 secrets of effective communication are. I do have a question about living with a person who is emotionally abusive. He uses his criticisms of others to manipulate and control them. How do you accept the criticism of such a person who is taking advantage of you, accepting the criticism? My soul wants to rebel against these criticisms and against the person who is trying to manipulate me. How do you navigate such a relationship when the abuser will never acknowledge that they are abusing others? He lives in a fantasy world of excuse making and blaming others. How do I acknowledge my weakness and allow the death of my ego to happen? Thank you for your consideration and help, Shirley.
I thought this question was fantastic because it's so classic. This woman is clearly saying, I'm good, my husband's bad. He's abusive. I'm right and he's wrong. And she's asking, for us to buy into that formulation. And I never do. But that's the way they work. Help me deal with people who are emotionally abusive. And I'm sure you can go to a zillion websites where they'll tell you, oh, yeah, this other person is abusive, people are abusive, you're a victim, it's that person's fault. And I did, as both of you know, research years ago on what are the actual causes of failed marriages, bad marriages, as opposed to things that are correlated with it. And I developed a computer program at Penn with the help of a graduate student. So we trained the computer. I had this big database with all these variables on people in relationships, both partners or one partner, and asked the computer to create and test hypotheses about what is the cause of marital discord. And also I had longitudinal data on many of these people. And the computer could create and test as many as 10,000 hypotheses per second. And we went through hundreds of thousands of ideas. And the computer said that all of your thinking about relationship conflicts has no validity. All the things that you think are causes have no causal effect whatsoever. And there's only one thing that has a causal effect on bad marriages. And the effect of that one variable is overwhelming. And I was so disappointed because I was looking for some complex mathematical model and I could flaunt it to the media and I have this equation that predicts things. And the fact that just all it could come up with was one thing, I said, what a disappointment that is. But when I thought about it, I said, man, this computer is damn smart. And it says the only thing of relevance is blame. If you're blaming someone for a problem in your relationship, that is guaranteed to cause a bad relationship in the here and now and a deterioration from the current level in the future. And that is so true. And you can see that here in this woman's note. It's all about blame. I want to be a victim. I want to feel morally superior. I want to blame, in this case, my husband. And I wrote back to her and I said, this is a great topic. And you want to, did you read her email already? I said, this is a great topic for a podcast, but I have to warn you that I'd be working with you and not your husband, because he's the one. You're the one who's asking for help. And did you read the dialogue she sent? I said, I'll need one example, one thing he said, and exactly what you said next, and then we can look at that pattern and focus on your role in the problem. And this might not be what you want. It might be disturbing to you to see maybe you're triggering this in your husband. Maybe you're playing a role in it. And of course, if her husband had contacted me, I would have focused on his role. But she's the one who's asking for help. And I tried to scare her off because I said, you're going to find out really you're kind of causing this, to be honest. He is, but you are, and you're the 100% cause of it. And he's the 100% cause, but we're going to look at your 100%, and that you probably aren't going to want to do that, and that's totally okay. But she was a good egg. She said, no, I want to proceed. I want to try to understand this. So I had her fill out a relationship journal. She sent a long dialogue, and you can see the pattern. Neither is listening to the other person. Both are arguing, trying to say, I'm right and you're wrong. So I asked her to narrow it down. I said, that's great, but all I need is one thing that he said and exactly what you said next. And then if we look at that, we can see the whole pattern. All the answers will be there. And so we're calling her Shirley to protect her identity. And she said we could use this if we give her this name. And she took this example. He says, I do everything I can to do what you want, but it's never good enough. You expect me to be a completely different person than I am. I am not that person, and I cannot, and I resent that you want me to be perfect and not get angry when I feel like it. So that was what he said. And then her response was, I feel neglected by you, and I'm angry too. You're so self-focused, and you're not interested in how you impact me and our family. Your angry tirades have damaged the love that I have for you, and for the love of your children had for you. And then the next step, if you do this type of thing, I asked her to identify all the feelings she thought he was having and all the feelings she was having. And she thought he was feeling lonely, unloved, and so forth, hopeless and discouraged, frustrated and defeated and stuck and angry and resentful and upset. And if the feeling she was having was sad, anxious, ashamed, inadequate, abandoned, humiliated, discouraged, frustrated, and resentful. And so they were both flooded with feelings. And then when you do the relationship journal, that's step 1 and step 2. What did he say? How was he feeling? What did you say? How were you feeling? Then step 3 is good or bad communication, and that's the ear checklist. You look at your response and you say, E is empathy. Did I empathize? And since she's doing the analysis, it would be, did I acknowledge his feelings? Did I find truth in what he was saying? Did I listen? And then assertiveness, did I share my own feelings openly? And then R is respect. Did I convey respect and caring even in the heat of battle? What would you folks say? Is she empathizing?
No, she's not acknowledging his feelings.
Right.
She's not acknowledging his feelings in any way. She's insisting that he's wrong and blaming him.
Exactly. And she heroically picked up on that. So she checked off bad communication on empathy, that she was using bad communication. How about assertiveness, Rhonda? Is she sharing her feelings?
No, she didn't really share her feelings.
Yeah, she circled 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 feelings, and she didn't acknowledge. She only acknowledged one of them. She said, I am angry too. Mm-hmm. Did she, and she courageously saw that. And then R is respect. Did she, is her attitude respectful and caring, or disrespectful and not caring?
Well, I think just by definition, if she's not being empathic and she's not expressing her own feelings, and then she can't be respectful or caring.
Exactly. Now, here's the $64,000 question. That was this program on TV when I was growing up. It was one of those quiz things. It was very dramatic, and $64,000 was this ungodly amount of money. But the step 4 on this is consequences. What will be the consequences? She says, how do you deal with emotionally abusive people? Well, what is the consequence of the way she responded to her husband in that example, and really in every example she sent?
Well, it's a spiraling into that blame, anger, lack of resolution, all of the feelings of being unloved and lonely. It just continues feeding on itself.
Right. Can you comment on that, Matt? Precisely what will be the impact of her response on him? How will he think and feel? What will he do next?
Yeah, so I noticed, for example, she was not doing any stroking or acknowledging of his feelings in a respectful way. But then she's saying, I feel neglected. So I think that what you can say, if she's not creating any type of positive experience for him, that's going to force him to neglect her. Yeah. And so the thing that she's most upset about is the thing that she's causing him to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And Rhonda said, I don't know if we should take this question. There's going to be a lot of pushback, and there is. Most people don't like the interpersonal model I've created, which is really a tool for interpersonal enlightenment, to see that we create our own interpersonal reality at every moment of every day. But she's reacting to him in a way, if you intentionally designed a response designed to tick him off and keep him arguing, that would be it. And the willingness to see this, how we cause other people to react to us in the way they are, that's the death of the self. And most people are unwilling to endure that, and we want to keep blaming the other person. But if you want to be empowered to change a relationship, you have to be willing to endure that. The Buddha called it the great death, or if he didn't, he should have. But
what you're suggesting then is this woman, whom we're calling Shirley, has to be really, really vulnerable to her husband and admit her feelings of loneliness and fear and her, and sometimes that's really scary and
right.
It's too difficult.
Well, it's not too difficult. It's actually extraordinarily easy. Even babies are willing to do this within moments of birth. It's the easiest thing a human being can do, but it's a choice. And most people don't choose to do that. But what you said, Rhonda, is so wise. That's 1/3 of what she has to do. But sharing your feelings is not the key to happiness. That was the assertiveness training movement, and it was kind of a farce, to be honest. It sounded good, but it doesn't work in reality, at least in my experience. But it's certainly 1/3 of the solution. But in addition, she has to see that she's treating him shabbily. Do you see that she says emotionally abusive? Well, she's not exactly emotionally, affectionate. And it is going to be painful for her to see that she is in fact treating him in a really kind of mean way. Now he's doing the same, but he's not asking for help. She's asking for help, and then also so that would be to disarm, to see his point of view. It's not just sharing her own feelings, but it's seeing where he's coming from, and he is in fact neglected. He is, in fact, being abused. Exactly what she thought was happening to her, she's doing this to him. And for most of us aren't open to saying that. We're going to slam that door shut. I want to be the victim. I don't want to see my role in this thing. And then the other thing is, you go ahead. Yep, I'll shut up.
Well, it's just that, Shirley, clearly you've asked her if she wants to get closer to him.
That's and the first thing, isn't it?
Yes.
And what did she say?
I'm asking you, what did she say? I'm assuming that since she engaged in this dialogue with you, that the answer was yes. that she wants to get close to him.
I didn't negotiate outcome resistance with her, just process resistance. So that's something we'd have to do. That always comes first. Do you want to just tell me about your husband, or did you want to develop a more loving relationship? And again, if the person says they don't really want to get close, then all of the tools we're using right now are a waste of time. And I think an awful high percentage of the time, maybe 70% of the time, when someone's ticked off at someone, they don't want to get close. They just want to let you know what a loser the other person is. Like the Trump supporters aren't asking to get close to the lefties in California. We just want to put them down. And then us lefties in California aren't asking to get close to the Trump supporters. We just want to put them down. And, that's that dynamic going on in the world. And then the last thing is what you say, like, does she want a more loving relationship? Does she want to convey warmth and love and caring and respect to this man? But I love Shirley's example, and I'm so proud of Shirley for sharing it with us. But it's like the most classic example that I can imagine of a troubled relationship that's prototypic of, to my way of thinking, what's going on all over the world. And this is what the computer at the University of Pennsylvania taught me. It said, this is your answer, guy. And it took me a while to see that really was the answer.
Well, let's read how Shirley rewrote what she said, because it was a beautiful example.
Sure.
So she rewrote what she said, and she said to her husband, "You're right. I do expect you to be perfect and to be completely different from the person you are. I also expect you not to show your anger. I'm not satisfied by the efforts you make to change or improve."
And before we go on to our next statement, how would you grade that one, Matt and Rhonda?
I actually didn't like that very much. I thought that was an effort to disarm. I liked the first three words, "You are right." I think I would want more of the blame taking type of disarm, where my standards have been way too high. I've been far too demanding and insistent, and that you change and blaming you. This to me, if I were hearing this, I would say, oh gosh, those standards aren't getting lowered at all.
Yeah, exactly. And what if she says, I also expect you not to show your anger? She forces him to be angry. And now she's saying, and when I force you to be angry, I insist that you don't show it.
Right.
It's a pretty frustrating statement, and shows that when you try to learn in the 5 secrets, your first efforts are not going to be at all effective. And then you'll think, oh, the 5 secrets doesn't work. But that's not true. What is true is that it's really hard to learn love, to learn compassion, to learn how to communicate. And would you agree with that, Rhonda?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Yeah, it's hard for
really hard.
any of us, even if you want to. And half the time you don't even want to. You just want to bite the other person's head off. How about the next statement? So we sadly, I have to give her an F plus on that, because of the first 3 words. You are right. That's a plus, and everything else she shot herself in the foot, and that's okay. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not going to get it at first. The whole idea is, are you willing to try and fail and keep working at it and learn over time? How about the next statement?
I'm feeling really upset and angry. I'm also feeling embarrassed and frustrated with myself and the way I've been responding to you.
What grade do you guys give that one? So let's start with you again, Matt.
I like the second sentence more. I'm also feeling embarrassed and frustrated with myself, and the way I've been responding to you. I liked that. I am feeling really upset and angry could be a little scary to hear, but it could also be true. I think when people are feeling really upset and angry, and they're saying that, it can actually stir up a little bit of conflict. Yeah.
Beautiful statement. I gave the second sentence, I'm feeling embarrassed and frustrated with myself and the way I've been responding to you. I gave that an A+, because it's showing real humility, and my hat's off. I tip my hat to anyone who's willing to make a statement like that. And Shirley is beginning to get a little bit of enlightenment. But the first one, it can easily be modified. Just say, I'm feeling really upset and angry with you, and I've been feeling that way for a long time. And the reason is because I love you so much. And I'm feeling so darn lonely, and I feel like I've probably been pushing you away and pissing you off, and preventing us from getting back to that loving relationship we used to have, and the you that I remember, and I still, I love you so much. That's why I want to kill you half the time, because I love you so much. How is that?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I think you packaged a lot of nice disarming and stroking and around that. So I thought that worked better. I think sometimes also explaining that, the angry feeling is coming from thoughts like I'm telling myself, oh, you shouldn't be getting angry with me, or you shouldn't try to manipulate me or control me. That I've got that thought. And I can see that it's ridiculous. I can see that my demanding that is actually creating it.
Yeah, and I can see that I'm actually trying to control you, and then complaining that you're trying to control me, and it hurts me, and it's embarrassing for me to see that I'm doing that to you. And yeah, lovely.
So what I'm hearing both of you in all of these, in these two steps, is that in every step, in every single step, she's examining her role. In every step, she's taking responsibility in the way you guys, not in the way she's written it, but in how you're redoing it and what the feedback is. That's your suggestion in every step of the 5 secrets. Examine your role, take responsibility.
That's huge. Absolutely. And again, we can point these things out, and people first have to want it. You have to want what we're selling, and you may not want it, and that's perfectly fine. We can just remember what the Buddha said 2,500 years ago. I won't say that.
Okay, good. We're trying to get you not to swear.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Then her next, but you have to want it, and then you have to learn it. You can read Feeling Good Together and learn about it, or listen to the free podcasts on this, and then you got to practice and really, really work at it. And it's like learning to play the piano. It's not going to come overnight. Her next statement, I thought, was a really good one.
I do care about you and hope that I can show you the respect that I should, as you tell me how you're feeling.
I mean, I don't have any fault with that.
Me either. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. You must be feeling really angry right now and frustrated. You're probably feeling hopeless, lonely, rejected, and alone.
How's that one, Matt? Or Rhonda, huh?
I liked it.
How about you, Rhonda?
I liked it. It could have been phrased more of a, in such a declarative. It's not such a declarative statement, but I'm wondering if you're feeling really angry right now.
Yeah, right. That's the only tiny improvement. Otherwise, that's a great. I wouldn't be surprised if you're also feeling hopeless, lonely, rejected, and alone. And it's hard for me to acknowledge your feelings too, because I'm always ignoring you and kind of thinking about myself. And now I see that a lot of the pain you're having is pain that I've triggered, and it makes me feel kind of ashamed too, and reminds me how much I love you. Although it's hard to feel the love most of the time because I'm so pissed off at you and you're so pissed off at me. And what a joy to be able to just sit down and talk about our feelings for a change. And to tell me more if I've got your feelings right, something like that. But yeah, that's a great statement.
Giving that an A+, David.
Okay, thank you. Why?
It felt kind of like a changing the focus on what's been going on in the relationship for a long time.
Yeah.
As well as indicating your sincere desire to get close and repair that the damage that's been done, and taking ownership over doing that damage.
Yeah, right.
And I love the way you think.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, here, so she's concluding it with, I've been so bogged down in my own emotions that I've lost touch with you. I need to know how you've been thinking and feeling. Tell me about what has been on your mind.
Yeah, how would you think about that one, Matt or Rhonda? You give us the first reading on it, Rhonda.
I liked it. She, again, if every step you're examining your own role, that's what she's doing too. I've been bogged down in my own emotions. I've lost touch with you. I'm not sure 100% if I like, I need to know how you've been thinking and feeling, because that feels a little demanding. And
oh yeah, good pickup on that.
But I like what, her inquiry, tell me about what's been on your mind. Or I'd say, tell me what's on your mind and tell me what you're feeling. What's this been like for you being in a relationship like this?
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks for that really scholarly commentary. And I would say overall, I think that you, Shirley, have made if you're listening, have made a great first step here. And while we pointed out harshly and clearly some errors, particularly in the first statement you made when you said, I expect you to be perfect and all of that, that you're coming pretty close. You bravely pointed out your own bad communication. And, I have tremendous respect for anyone who's willing to work at it like this. When I get in a conflict and have to point out my own role, look at my own role, it's sometimes very painful for me and feels very shameful. And I'm just, filled with tremendous respect for what you've done here, really in the very first, relationship journal you've ever done. What's your wrap up, Rhonda?
Yeah, she's really exposed herself to us and to all our listeners and letting us, analyze this one conversation between the two of them. And I really appreciate that. I admire her for diving in the deep end and trying to work on this.
Yeah, absolutely. How about your wrap up, Matt?
Yeah, I'm also really admiring Shirley for taking these steps, being willing to look at her communication and grade it and see what's wrong in it. That's just a beautiful thing that she's doing. And I feel closer to her for sharing this. And I can also really relate, even though I know the 5 secrets and have trained people in the 5 secrets, I still find myself getting into these kinds of conflicts and making all these kind of blaming type errors myself. And it's kind of nice to know I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely. Blame feels good.
Yeah.
Right, it does.
We didn't mean to dwell, but the first 2 questions have been exactly the same issue of looking. Important. Learning to see things through the eyes of the other person rather than trying to control that person and, think there's something wrong with them. And that's been a biblical thing in all religions, I think, to look within rather than pointing out all the errors the other person is making. And this has been taught for 2,000 years, 2,500 years, and still humans are tone deaf. Like you say that and people say, oh, okay. And their eyes glaze over and they say, who are the Giants playing tonight in baseball? How are the NBA playoffs going or something like that? But it's, I don't know. To me, it's one of the secrets of life. Yeah, yes, very, very much. What would you say, Rhonda?
It's really, really, really challenging and difficult to see that we cause other people to react to us the way we do not want them to do.
Yeah.
That's really, really difficult.
Yeah, and it's surprising too. It's weird. And I've probably done 2,000 relationship journals with people. And 100% of the time, that's it. You're causing the very problem we're complaining about. It's intellectually mind-blowing and fascinating, but emotionally it's tough to take. And a lot of people, they don't want to hear that. They want their own. Don't you dare take my enemies away.
Yeah.
I demand having someone to hate. There's a couple quickies here.
Let's just do this one last one.
Okay.
Guy asked.
Oh, yeah, relates to the same topic.
Because it's the same thing. Hi, David. Please consider asking one of your skilled therapists to create a 5 Secrets of Effective Communication practice group. Possibly the group could run weekly virtually, and it would be an opportunity to repeatedly practice each of the secrets. I do practice on my own, but I know that learning is often strongest when working with others. This is from Guy in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah. Who is this guy?
I don't know.
What's his name?
His name is Guy.
Well, but who is the I know some guy wrote, but
he's an interested listener who wants to practice.
Oh, his name is Guy. I thought it was just some guy.
Yeah, some guy. He probably hears that joke all the time.
His name is some guy.
Yeah.
Well, this really neat woman who's in your Wednesday group, Anna Teresa Silva, has started a 5 Secrets Zoom practice group, and she just has a few people. And she's very skillful, very smart lady, very motivated. She's trying to learn herself, but also to practice with others. And if you'd like to join their group, they're just getting started. It's I'll put the email in the show notes, but I'll spell it out for you. It's Teresa Silva 6@gmail.com. That's ATERESASILVA 6@gmail.com. Teresa Silva 6. It's Anna Teresa, but it's just Teresa. Her name is Anna Teresa, and I think you'll have a lot of fun. Someone in our Tuesday group, actually an OBGYN physician who used to be at Stanford, and he's still practicing in the Bay Area, Mark, has had a 5 Secrets practice group with a number of his friends from Iran, and he's been running that group, I would say, for 10 years.
Wow.
And he's been coming, you know him.
Yes.
To the Tuesday group for, nearly 10 years, if not more. And his entire goal has been to master the 5 Secrets, and they practice all the time, and he uses it in his medical OBGYN practice. And of course, we sometimes practice in the Tuesday group, and you may also sometimes practice in your Wednesday group. You have to do ongoing practice to master these things. And so here's a free resource for any of you who would like to really learn the 5 Secrets. For me, they've been a life changer, but like Matt says, I occasionally slip up. The other day, I got this annoying email from some listener, and I just got pissed off, so I just told her off. I didn't use any of the 5 Secrets, and it was just so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
and I published it on the website. She emailed me, and she had some criticism that about something or other that obviously I took odds with, and she actually gave a very nice and warm response. It was really cool, but usually you got to do the 5 Secrets to get a good response.
Well, but that you have to choose to do it. It takes work and effort, and you have to want to be close to the other person. You didn't want to be close to her. Yeah,
just so easy to see someone as bad. That generalization, the way our mind works, the same thing that causes depression is the same thing that causes anger. Overgeneralization. Well, thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Hey, Matt, before we say goodbye, can I ask you a question?
Sure. So
here you are. David talks a lot about you as his number one student, the best therapist in the world. I also think that you're an incredible teacher and human being just in general. And in the beginning of this podcast, when you first did the 5 Secrets with the anorexic role play, when I was the person and you were the mother, and you got a B+ A- from me and David, and And, and I'm a neophyte compared to you. And I just kind of wonder, I mean, it is an example of how difficult 5 Secrets is, but what was that like for you to get a grade that wasn't an A+? And it's kind of embarrassing. And for me to actually think that I have the right to even give that to you, but what's it like for you?
Thank you, Rhonda. I noticed that I still have an ego, and so sometimes if I'll get a B, I'll feel kind of embarrassed and think, oh, I shouldn't get a B. I should be better than that. I'll have those kinds of negative thoughts. But then over time, that has just bothered me less and less. I see failure as something that's necessary for growth and learning, and something that we're all doing together. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of grateful for the opportunity to learn and grow with you guys. And I try to keep the bar low and park my ego at the door when I'm doing these exercises.
Thanks.
And if we don't keep the bar low, we can always go to the bar.
I
fantasize how great we are. Yeah, I love what you're saying, that there's just a kind of, I think enlightenment is all about just becoming ordinary.
Yeah, right.
And
celebrating being average.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I felt some concern that if someone is out there listening and they're hoping that through mastering the 5 Secrets, that would result in changing the other person, or if they're in a relationship that truly is abusive, that sometimes the only thing that's going wrong is that they're still in the relationship. That the safest the way to protect themselves would be to end the relationship and prevent the abuse from continuing that way.
Yeah, and get out. Everyone isn't going to be workable, and you're going to have some narcissistic, sociopathic types who are not a good investment. And so it's always good to consult with a therapist first and make the decision, is this a relationship that I should be working on, or is this a relationship where I'd be better off leaving the relationship? Because there are some people out there, including but not exclusive to people who are, abusing drugs and amphetamines, and they're paranoid, and they're just some mean, angry, violent people who are kind of addicted to that. And if you're connected with somebody like that, should you use the 5 Secrets when you're trying to get out of the relationship? Absolutely. Now it's twice as important to learn stroking and disarming and feeling empathy so you can get out of that relationship alive. And to save yourself, and there's no rule that says we always have to get along with everyone. And even if you have someone who's workable, it's going to take a lot of work and dedication to learn the 5 Secrets, and it's hard, and it's so easy to screw up.
It is, and then maybe another thing we can talk about at some point is how it's often women who are in a role where they feel like they can't leave the relationship because they're not the breadwinner, or they've got children that they need to support, and they're not sure how to do that in the absence of their partner, and that can go both ways. But I think that's concerning and a problem that's sort of at a society level. That needs to be addressed so that women are free to leave if they're in an abusive relationship, rather than to have to continue to endure that for their children or some other reason.
Are there sometimes community resources for people in abusive relationships? I'm assuming there are a lot of such resources. You could probably find them by Googling.
Yeah, women's shelters, and I think the Ronald McDonald House may be an example. But yeah, we could maybe create a little list and put those in the show notes as well.
But Matt, thank you so much. I mean, one of the things that we neglected to point out is that when people are in a relationship that's troubled, they do have 3 options. to work on themselves, like Shirley really wanted to do. She wanted to examine her role, and she obviously did that with the work that you guys did and with the relationship journal. She could have accepted the status quo and said, I'm just going to live with this, and I'm not, and you could have helped her to just stay in the relationship, but not blame him, and but also not examine the role and just accept that things are the way they are. Or like you pointed out, Matt, sometimes the best choice is to leave the relationship. And I don't want people to think that if someone says, oh, you're in an abusive relationship, we're giving them only one option.
Right.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying. Good addendum to the show. Critically important.
Oh, my pleasure, David. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Rhonda. It's just always a privilege and honor to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Do you still have time if someone wants to call you and get a free 15-minute consultation about the future of the stock market or any other topic, like if they need some therapy or something, you're still offering that to, find out?
Yeah, I wouldn't take my advice on stocks, but if folks want to look me up, they can go to my website, MatthewMayMD.com, and there's a way to schedule 15 minutes just to talk over anything you might want some help with.
And we'll put that in the show notes as well. It's MatthewMay.com it's MatthewMayMD.com.
And
Matthew May MD is one word with no periods in it?
That's right.
MatthewMayMD.com. .com.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the website.
That's my website. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then the email is?
There are dots in the email. Matthew.may.md@gmail.com.
Oh, okay. Great.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.